Hello, music fans. You're watching Death by Unicorn, where we talk about metal, rock, and prog music. And this is New Music's Alive in 2025. I'm going to talk about not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, not six, but 7 new albums that came out on July 18th and give my quick first impressions of them. And I'll talk about them in my order of preference. Starting with It was tough to pick my favorite here. My first two are almost interchangeable. I love them both. They're really, really great. But I'll start with Darko and their EP, Canvas. It's a really strong EP. This is a band from the UK. They are technical, melodic, hardcore punk. They've got some metalcore and progressive metal influences. I'm putting this one in my excellent tier. I also thought their 2024 EP Grayscale was excellent, and I was really looking forward to this. Check this out if you like technical music that is inspired by punk rock. So if you like bands like Propaganda, Protest the Hero, Choke, and A Wilhelm Scream, definitely check this out. It sounds kind of like those bands. It's essentially progressive hardcore punk, which is a sound I really enjoy. They've got really fast guitars, great guitar leads going throughout their songs that are really fun to listen to. And if that sounds good to you, check out Canvas by Darko. Next, I want to talk about a band that I just recently listened to for the first time that I wasn't too familiar with. They're from Israel, and they just released their third album. The band's called Scardust, and the album's called Souls. This is symphonic progressive metal. It's got power metal and neoclassical influences. Also putting this in my excellent tier. Really great. Never listened to an album by them before this, but I heard the track Dazzling Darkness ahead of time. I enjoyed it, so I added this to my list. However, after listening to the whole album, that track's kind of more the most accessible and kind of the least interesting track on the album to me now, but it is a really catchy track. It has really strong female vocals, and the whole album has these amazing vocals. Some parts are really mind-blowingly difficult vocal lines that are executed just flawlessly. And as far as I know, they're done by the same woman. There's mostly clean vocals, sometimes very high pitch and operatic sounding, sometimes very kind of gritty, like metal sounding vocals. And then there's a few moments of even harsh vocals as well. And I think they're all done by the same woman who does the clean vocals, which is Noah Grumman. And there's 2 tracks that feature guest vocal performances from Ross Jennings as well, from Haken, and he is always great. I love Haken. He's as great as always. There's also Searing Echoes, which is an awesome song. I love the violin feature there from Ali Storch. And then the Touch of Life suite of 3 tracks that closes the album. That's just mind-blowing. And part 1 and 3 of that are the ones that feature Ross Jennings. Really awesome. It's kind of like what I wish Nightwish would sound like, but so this is a lot better. They're probably up there now as like the best execution of this symphonic metal sound, but I think it's because it's so proggy. Like Nightwish never quite got proggy enough for me. Even Epica didn't quite go proggy enough for me. But I think this one really figured it out. Very symphonic, but also very proggy, very powerful. A lot of great neoclassical influences. I think they even play with an orchestra on one track. And the album feels like a journey. It feels like I don't know if it's a concept album. I didn't look into it, but it feels like it flows. It feels like musical theater almost. If could be a bit cheesy for some people. I feel like that might be what holds people back, or like people who don't like operatic style vocals. Even people who don't like harsh vocals, I think, can like this because there are not too many of them. But if you immediately turn it off, even if you hear a second of harsh vocals, then this kind of has some of that. But yeah, if you're okay with all that, harsh vocals, operatic vocals, crazy musical theater, and an adventure of an album, definitely check out Souls by Scardust. Next up, I'm moving down to my very good tier. These next two almost made my excellent tier, but I'm just keeping them at very good for now. I've got Styx with Circling from Above, the 18th album by this American band, and it's progressive rock with some hard rock, arena rock, kind of pop influences. This continues a little bit of a comeback that Styx has been having with this and the two albums that came before it. They're getting back into their prog sound. I think their stuff in the 90s was a little on the weak side for me, but I love a lot of their work in the 70s. Even some of their 80s stuff was pretty good, but the 90s, I feel like they kind of lost it, but now they're back and they're doing great stuff again. There's influences from Queen on here, and I like it a lot. Every song's catchy but interesting. It's not the most progressive thing in the world, but there's enough instrumental trickiness, atypical song structures, wild vocal harmonies, the odd time signature change to keep it interesting. I don't think it's the best album by Styx or anything, but currently it might be my favorite of the newest three. Maybe that's recency bias, but I really like what they've done on this one. That's Circling from Above by Styx. If you're an old Styx fan and you kind of gave up on them at some point, you really need to wake back up and check out Styx. They are still awesome, and this one should not be missed. It's got a bit more of an older school sound to it. It doesn't sound like new modern prog. It kind of sounds like it could have come out in the 70s. So if you like that classic sound of like Queen and old Styx, then check this out. Circling from Above by Styx. Next up, I have Daron Malakian and Scars on Broadway with Addicted to the Violence, which is the third album by this American project. I hesitate to say band because it's really Daron Malakian who kind of runs the show here. It's alternative metal. I'm putting this in my very good tier as well. I guess it's a band because there are other musicians that tour with him, but it's founded by Daron Malakian of System of a Down on guitar and vocals. He also plays drums, bass, keyboards in the studio. So I think he might have done everything in the studio. I haven't really looked into that, but I know he kind of does all those instruments and writes everything and is the creative leader of this group. Guitar and vocals are what he plays live, and he's supported by touring members. But really, this is his show here. And this music from Daron Malakian and Scars on Broadway, this and music from Serj Tankian is really the closest we'll ever get to new System of a Down albums. Please prove me wrong, System. I would love to hear new System of a Down. I know they've put out some couple singles since their last album, Hypnotize, which was, I think, 2005. So they haven't put out new albums in 20 years. For this one from Daron Malakian, I'm on the border between very good and excellent for this, but I decided on very good for now. Maybe it'll grow more on me. I really love Daron's style of guitar riffing. It's often simplistic, but it's very fun, and he has a signature sound. There are some parts on here on guitar and instrumentally that were trickier than what I expected from him. Usually he keeps it pretty simple, but there are some pretty cool parts. Vocally, Daron's okay, but I think the real magic happens when Daron and Serj harmonize together. Daron on his own, to me, doesn't quite hold up as a lead vocalist, and that's kind of what's dragging this down. He's okay, he's not bad. If Serj joined in, however, this would have the potential to be a near masterpiece. I think those two together just have the sound that is iconic and just can't be replicated. I enjoy a lot of these tracks, though, from Daron Malakian and Scars on Broadway, like Satan Hussein, which is an awesome track, and Done Me Wrong is also a great track. Those two are back to back after the opening track, which is kind of more, the opening track is kind of more like what I would expect from Scars on Broadway, so I wasn't immediately like mind blown. I guess there were some pretty crazy blast beats in it and some parts that like guitar parts that almost sounded black metal, like the vocals never went black metal, but so that was kind of interesting. Lyrically, this album can get pretty vulgar, of course. If you like System of a Down, that's kind of to be expected. So a little bit vulgar and cheesy, but interesting and fun to listen to. If that sounds good to you, check out Addicted to the Violence by Daron Malakian and Scars on Broadway. Now I've got two more in my very good tier to talk about today, which next one's Abigail Williams and A Void Within Existence. This is the 6th album by this American band, and this is atmospheric melodic black metal with black gaze and symphonic influences. And this is one where I heard the single ahead of time. I think I've listened to one other Abigail Williams album in the past. I haven't listened to all of their music, but I have heard some of their stuff in the past. And I heard the single Non-Existence, really enjoyed it. Added this to my list to check out. Lots of blast beats and intense black metal shrieks, but also great guitar riffs, great soft moments, great atmosphere, even an emotional guitar solo to end the song. The majority of the album is typical atmospheric melodic black metal music, but there are some surprises and twists and moments you wouldn't expect for the genre. The last track, No Less Than Death, is a beautiful and emotional album closer. If you're a fan of Xanthocroid, Dimmu Borgir, and Emperor, I think you'll like this. It's not quite as symphonic and cinematic as those groups, and it's a bit more on the atmospheric and black gaze influences, like maybe if you're a fan of Deaf Heaven, but it has a bit of that symphonic and cinematic quality to it that I think is interesting. So check out A Void Within Existence by Abigail Williams. And last one in my very good tier for today, before I move on to one that's just in my good tier. In my very good tier, I've got Mawiza and their album Ul. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is the 3rd album by this group from Chile, and it's progressive groove metal with metalcore, alternative metal, and death metal influences. And Mawiza are an interesting band. They're an indigenous metal band from the Mapuche Nation, which are a group of indigenous inhabitants of south central Chile and southwestern Argentina, including parts of Patagonia. I didn't know much about the Mapuche Nation before, but I got an early release copy of this from Seasons of Mist label, which they're on. So decided to check this out, and very interesting. They started their career with a different band name. I think they were called Nunca Ceremos de Cosos. Good thing they changed their name. That's hard to pronounce, hard to say. They used that name on their debut album, but then they changed their name to Mawiza. The band sings in a language that I've never heard of until listening to this. It's called Mapuzungun. It's their ancestral language, and I've never heard of any other band singing that language. Maybe there are others, but this is the first for me. Big thanks to Seasons of Mist. They're a great label, and they put this on my radar. They put this out. They sent me a promo download so I could listen ahead of time. I appreciate that. Mawiza collaborates with Gojira frontman Joe Duplantier on their track Ti Inen Pa Pakon. So check this out if you're a fan of Gojira. That's probably the closest band to their sound. Like imagine Gojira adding in indigenous South American styles. Gojira, maybe Soulfly. Really cool progressive groove metal. I'm definitely curious to hear where this band goes next. That's Ul by Mawiza. And last one that I listened to from July 18th that I want to give my first impressions of is by the band Slaughter to Prevail, and it's called Grizzly. I'm putting this one in my good tier. This is the 3rd album by this Russian deathcore band. They have some new metal influences. They're based in the US now, but they're originally from Russia. I heard the single Russian Grizzly in America, which is crushingly heavy. Not sure how much I like it. It was hard not to headbang to it, especially to that breakdown. The snare sound on the song almost reminds me of Metallica's Saint Anger snare, though. It sounds a bit like a trash can, but that never bothered me too much on Saint Anger. I hear a lot of people say that's the big problem with Saint Anger, but that Saint Anger snare sound it's not too bad for me, but it does continue throughout the album, so you've been warned. And maybe I'm hearing things, maybe I'm the only one that thinks that's what it sounds like, but let me know down below in the comments if you agree that's kind of what the snare sounds like. In many of the songs, there are these weird diversions away from the deathcore sound. Like the opening track, Bandidos, has a moment where it goes into like Mexican folk song vibe before coming back and beating you down with a breakdown. Overall, the album here, From Slaughter to Prevail, sounds like if Slipknot and Metallica got the craziest deathcore vocalist they could find and tried to make a deathcore album with the sound of Saint Anger and weird diversions into other genres, like when they feature baby metal on one song called Song 3. So it just goes into like a J-pop chorus. And they feature Ronnie Radke of Falling in Reverse on one track as well. And I know he's a controversial figure in the music industry, but his vocals are always, well done, of course. So, everything here is interesting and well done, kind of silly, not really my style, but I'll still put this in my good tier. If you like deathcore, though, I think Grizzly by Slaughter to Prevail is one to check out. If you don't like deathcore, then you probably aren't going to like this. It's not going to change your mind. But yeah, definitely check it out if you like deathcore. Grizzly by Slaughter to Prevail. And that is it for my first impressions of these, how many did I say? 7 new albums that came out on July 18th. Hope you found something good on this list for you to check out that you didn't know about before. Have you heard any of these? Let me know your thoughts on them down below in the comments. And is there anything else that came out recently that you think I might enjoy? Also let me know. And if you like metal, rock, and prog music, you're in the right place. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button if you've watched a lot of my videos and enjoy my commentary or enjoy some of the albums that I'm spotlighting and turned you on to. And I do these pretty much weekly, quick first impressions of what's come out recently that I listen to, and monthly I put up my top 10. In about a week's time or so, I'm going to give my quick first impressions on new releases coming from Tim Minchin, Cryptodira, Gracian, Hacks Process, Bone Flower, and Ambient Den. So if you're curious to hear what I think of those, hit that subscribe button as well. And stay tuned for next time. Peace out.